I've seen a lot of videos. I've seen a lot of videos out there, and I don't think they bring the game justice as far as for what they try to make it be. The only thing that I could say about The Last of Us and the way that they delivered it was something like what Kojima did in Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. And what I mean by that, I remember when I played Metal Gear Solid Sons of Liberty, and we thought that we was going to play as Snake, Solid Snake. And then we was hit with a whole new character, which was Raiden. And a lot of people were pissed. I was upset. But not until maybe, 8 years ago, people started to respect that game. Mainly because of what Kojima did as far as building up the character of Raiden and at the same time release other Metal Gear games. And it gave somewhat of like, you're going to respect Metal Gear Solid 2. And after, reviewing and looking at the whole dialogue of Metal Gear 2, it was super sick. But through the whole game, I was pissed because I was playing as Raiden and not Solid Snake. This is something that Naughty Dog did. I don't know if they pulled it out of the page of Kojima, but I will say this. They did it totally wrong. Number one, when you introduce a character, you got to build up that character. Just like in The Last of Us 1. In Last of Us 1, we had feelings. We understood Joel and Ellie. Like, we understood them. Like, it was almost like one and the same. Like, we understood them. And we was trying to protect her, even though that we didn't like her. And she was more of a problem in trying to get her to the Fireflies because she was immune to the virus in The Last of Us 1. So that buildup was something that you ended up loving Ellie. You ended up caring for her. And then at The Last of Us 1, it has that dramatic scene at the end where Joel ends up actually caring for her as a daughter. And that only happens when you built the character up as Joel from losing his own daughter in the beginning of the game of The Last of Us 1 and then arguing with Ellie through The Last of Us 1 to the point where Joel tells Ellie, right, you are not even my daughter. I am not responsible for you. And those type of words, those type of those cut scenes in The Last of Us 1 is what actually made The Last of Us 1 all the way to the end. I bring up Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, mainly because Raiden, I never liked him as a character. However, The dialogue about writing in Metal Gear is just something that is what's happening today. It has a lot to do with social media, and it has to do with a lot of of believing the media, and that's something today that we're going through. And this was done back what in 2002, 2001, I believe. You got to Google that. But I believe Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty was talking about the things of social media and how powerful people want you to believe a certain type of way. And they will do anything to brainwash the people in order to believe something. And even today, if we go back to Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and you listen to the storyline, you begin to understand it. In the very beginning, nobody liked it. Everybody was upset with the game. But today it's considered a masterpiece. Now, with The Last of Us 2, could it be that? The only way that The Last of Us 2 could be something like that is if The Last of Us 3 follows up on a super big, good storyline. If they don't, The Last of Us is done. Because as a lot of you know, The Last of Us 2 didn't do so well with a lot of real gamers. I know IGN and all these other, not even going to mention a lot of gaming company reviews, critics. They all gave it a 9 or a 10. And honestly, I don't think it deserves that. I just think a lot of people did that mainly because it's Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog's is a AAA company. They are dope. Dope as fuck. With Uncharted. And honestly, I truly believe that in face value, they dropped the fucking ball on this one. Especially waiting for 7 years. I don't know when they initially announced it. Maybe it was only 5 years or whatever. But is anybody really trying to wait another 7 years for the next Last of Us? Nah. No. Ain't nobody trying to wait for that after what has transpired in The Last of Us 2. And that's the problem. The Last of Us 2, number one, is a very, very good game. Very good game. It's like part one. Same combat mechanics. There's a little bit of tweaks here and there. You could prone now. You get all the way down. But the thing that was wrong with it is that there wasn't enough for 7 years or 5 years whenever they initially started developing the next game. There's not enough for that amount of time, straight up. So if Naughty Dog is going to do and recycle a lot of the programming and just add a little bit here and there, they might as well be like 2K NBA. They might as well be like Madden, EA. Because if you're not changing a whole lot throughout all of them years of production, then I don't know what the hell they doing in that studio. The game is good. because it's like the first one. So they didn't change a lot. So maybe that's why they kept it. They kept it the way that was good. Like, it's that thing. Why change something when it's not broken, right? But the problem is the storyline, the pace of the story. So when we look at the story, number one, first and foremost, Joel gets knocked out in the very beginning of the game. Dead. Gone. The whole time I was hoping, maybe he survived somehow or his brother got him. Nope. At the end, he's done. He's done. He's not, that's it. The only time that you're able to play him is through flashbacks, which was with Ellie, which was probably the best part of the whole game, while they are trying to introduce us to a new character. And her name is Abby. Look, I'm all cool with new characters and things like that, But the way they introduced her, I understood, like, okay, damn, Joel killed her dad. That was the doctor that was about to operate on Ellie when Joel saved her from The Last of Us 1. Like, I kind of thought, like, you know what? We may have something. Okay, cool. But as you go through the game, I tried to like Abby. I tried to like Abby. And then I realized that Abby, her personality was just the exact same as Ellie. So I haven't looked it up. I haven't researched it. So I started thinking, like, is this Abby, the same voice actor of Ellie? Because they didn't even switch that up. They didn't even make her own personality, which was something that I caught very quick. It was like, it's Ellie, but Abby. And then as you progress through Abby's story, it gets even worse. Now, look, the gameplay, the game, everything, super, super good. The problem that I think that a lot of people have with it is how the story progresses. In the story, it seems like we are being forced to love Abby. And they show Ellie as the bad person or the enemy, It's something like what Assassin's Creed tried to do with Assassin's Creed Rogue, where you're no longer playing with the assassins, but you're playing with a Knight Templar. So you get a perspective on what both of them believe, and it's up to us to judge what is right and what is wrong. Now, I like that. I like for games to engage into our intellect and to see, like, hey, you've been playing this game and you think this character is so great, but you missed these type of characteristics that doesn't make this character so great. This is what happened in Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. Very similar. And like what I said, I don't know this writer. I had his name. I can't think of his name right now. But he got a lot of super horrible comments going to him on Twitter, and asking for him to resign and things like that and get out of Naughty Dog. He ruined The Last of Us. But to be fair, I would say is that he probably followed the greatest game producers, game writers in the world. But the reason why he fails is because this is only number 2. So you cannot go with the shock factor that quick. And I think he introduced the shock factor a little too fast, to the point where I didn't even want to play the game no more. I wanted to play as Joe. I wanted to play as Ellie. I didn't want to play as Abby. And you can't do that in a story, in my opinion. You can't do that in a story until you got a couple of titles. I don't know if this guy is the same writer as Drake, with his story. I don't know if he's the same writer, but a fear factor or a shock factor is something that everybody's trying to achieve, very similar to what Kojima has done, but Kojima has multiple titles under his belt. And you can't do that. Once again, I don't know if he's the same writer as Uncharted. And I'll look at that later, and maybe you could look at that later. But the problem is that you do not kill off a character that everybody loves. I feel like that was a very cheap shocker attempt. Trying to do things like the way you see on Netflix, like in Walking Dead, or in other, movies. He tried to go with the shock factor, but totally missed the buildup. And that's what it is. It's the buildup. I think the only problem that I have with the game is that there was no buildup. From the moment that I met Abby, I didn't like her. Because I don't want to play with nobody else. Could you imagine if this game started off with Joel, Abby, or Joel and Ellie trying to get together, their understanding, because they had beef in the very beginning of the game and all that. Allie's upset because Joel pretty much rescued her from The Last of Us 1. So you could have seen something in the very beginning, they come back together, and then they bring Abby aboard after that rescue in The Last of Us 2. And then they become partners until they end up realizing, maybe mid-game or probably even at the end of the game, that Abby ends up realizing that, hey, these are the people that killed my dad. But no. it goes straight to where Abby already knew who this dude was. And you would think that if this guy went up into a hospital, he was already, the Fireflies knew who he was, and they already had his name and things like that. Okay, I understand that. I understand that. And Abby knew exactly who she was looking for, or she heard about it. But what about you bring them away? Or even with, even in the game, like bring Joel away from the main story in the way that Ellie and Abby connect. Because in the story, you never really see that Abby actually knows Ellie from that incident. And quote, and correct me if I'm wrong. I do not know not one instance that where Abby says, you were that girl. So they could have easily made the story better. Easily. There's not one instance where I believe where Abby actually says, yes, Ellie, I know your name. She only knew Joel's name. You could have flipped that. The writers could have flipped that to the point where Abby and Ellie got together, doing their own thing and having a fucking beautiful time, creating a relationship, and then all of a sudden they got to kill each other. How much more of a great story would have been that? To the point where Ellie's like, no, you're not going to kill Joe. Joe. I keep saying Joe, but Joe. Like, you're not going to kill him. You see, and you could have added a whole bunch of shit after that. But no. They totally made Ellie as a person straight up on revenge after the death of Joe. And I just don't, a lot of people don't think that they should have went with that narrative. But I understand is that when you're creating a story and when you get story blocked, it's a thing. It's a thing. You get story blocked. You get a writer's block is what they call it. And I believe that was the issue with The Last of Us 2. There was some type of writer's block with the writer. So he went, looked at a couple of other people, what they did and how they became successful in writing a story. And this is just my opinion. And then he followed it, because this straight up is almost like Metal Gear without an epic story. So I could see if the writer for The Last of Us 2 had an epic story to go along with it. But he didn't. He continually pushed Abby as the person you should feel sorry for, while pushing Ellie as the villain. Look, I'm all for the person I thought that was good to be the villain. But you don't pace it that way. And that's what he did. He paced it very, very wrong. And everybody sees it. You go to other reviews and things like that. I took my time with this game. And I really, really wanted to like it. And I do like it. But the problem is that it's not The Last of Us 1. Last of Us 1 is like it's a 10. It's a 10 masterpiece. This one here is maybe, I want to say 5.5. Did I say 5.5? I meant to say 7.5. 7.5. I'm thinking of another game. 7.5. Mainly because the studio had years, multiple years in development, and didn't come up with nothing new besides proning. One of the things that they did come up with, a little more accuracy and things like that, is the face animations and the movement. I would even say that the gunplay is slightly a little better. Almost the same, but I feel it like it's a little more smoother. Actually, I went to The Last of Us 1 to see the difference. It's a little smoother. It's better, but not great. The other thing too is that the upgrades, you really don't really need to get so many upgrades. The upgrades isn't really important. You could stealth your way all the way through it, or you could just beat everybody up and then just run. There was this one time in the game when I was playing Abby. I had no I had no bullets, ammunition. I didn't have no ammunition. So what I ended up doing was, just running and punching, and that got me out of it until I could find bullets. The other thing is, the amount of things that you could find in the world is not so much. There's not a whole lot, you know. The things that you find, like cards and stuff like that for Ellie, and I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even know if Abby was collecting anything. You know, it was kind of somewhat broken in trying to piece these characters together and trying to make the gamers love Abby and to consider that, you know, revenge isn't the right thing in humanity, which I totally agree. I like the message, but the way the message is delivered is just horrible. It's just horrible. Great game, great gameplay. I mean, I had fun doing it. You know, I took my time on it. There's a lot of reviews out there. This is just my review. You know, just trying to make sense of what was going through their mind when they created this. Because, you know, if you have that many years to create something, this thing better be great. And it's good, but not great. A lot of reviews out there gave it a 10 and a 9. And I don't understand that. And I truly believe it's just because it's Naughty Dog. A lot of people said this with Kojima's game Death Stranding. You know, a lot of people gave it low scores, and then some other people gave it high scores. And there was a very big problem because they said the people that gave it high scores were people that love Kojima, while the people that gave it low scores were the actual rating with no bias. And, you know, whatever it may be, I mean, I love Death Stranding. I think it's a good game. It's not for everybody. And with The Last of Us, I think that they just totally went bias on this game. And just because it was Naughty Dog, they just went full 10s and 9s. And And it's not that, really. The main problem is that they had so many odd years to develop this game. And there's not that many good features or add-ons or nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing. So, what were you doing the whole time? What were they doing the whole time? I don't get it. There's some places, there's some maps where you can walk around the whole damn map and there ain't nothing in that area. And the whole time you just trying to find a window to get out of that place. And that happens so many times. Another problem is that you have no navigation really. And I think that they did that on purpose, just for you to run around in the room trying to figure out how to get out. But the way they did it was just you actually want to get out of the game. You actually want to get out of that room. You actually want to get out of that level. And that's the problem with it, is that now you're trying to speed run it because you're playing as Abby. Now, you know, like, okay, we understand what happened and this and this. But now you're trying to speed run it because you're trying to get back to Ellie. Look, in the boss battle with Abby, and you're playing Abby, and then you finally see Ellie, and you get into a boss battle with her, I died a few times because I wanted Ellie to fucking kill her. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's how much I was tired of Abby as a character. Not only that, but she had the same personality as Ellie. That's Ellie's personality, not your personality. They couldn't even give a unique personality to Abby. And that's what killed it for me. It took me a while to finish it, do the work and things like that. But after finishing it, I had to say to myself, you know what? It's a good game. The ending, pretty good. Not the ending, but the ending before the ending, where Abby and Ellie, you know, they get into a fight, you know, that was good. That was good. I enjoyed it. But at the end, where Ellie just loses everything and just walks off into the fields, I kind of felt like that was a cheap way to go. And it's only going to bring 3. You know, the writer, I still can't remember his damn name, but the writer of the story, he posted up an apology on Twitter saying that we hope that we win the fans back to The Last of Us. The thing is that I don't think a lot of fans want to wait that long for another Last of Us. If they're going to bring anything out, it has to be within a year to 2 years. None of this 5 years or none of that, you know, people ain't got no time. We ain't waiting for that no more. Especially when you come with something like this with The Last of Us 2. Especially when you come with something like this. This was a good game, but not worth the time waiting for. There was only one time that they spoke about Ellie's being immune. You know, there was only maybe one time where Ellie actually expressed her feelings about Joel. You get it at the end and about how they feel, but it wasn't a real good expression. We understood her, but it needed more. It needed more feeling to it. And that's why we love The Last of Us 1. The Last of Us 1 was pure feelings. And this one just seemed like it was rushed. They had a budget for 5 years and they rushed it in 2. That's the way that it feels. And the story dude, story writer, got writer's block, didn't know what to do, and then he ended up searching up what everybody else did to send a shock to players. And I think he did a poor job at what he did, because you cannot do that you cannot do that unless you have multiple titles under your belt before that. And he probably does, but I'm pretty sure he's never done that before. So he wanted, I believe it was a cheap shock value. Look, let Joel die in the beginning. Okay, cool. But bring something super interesting after that. What happened? Nothing. The whole time I thought Joel was about to show up any minute. Nothing. He's actually dead. I just think that, people, developers, writers, they do what's good based off of what they see without being original. And you're starting to see that in a lot of games. And they're following the top-notch video games and story that has done those same type of things and was successful. So you're starting to see a lot of these, and I can't believe Naughty Dog even passed it. I don't know. I do not know how they passed that story. The story is good. It's not what I expected, but as the story unfolded, I didn't care about it. Do you know why? Because I had no connection with the characters no more. And that's what made The Last of Us 1 great. That's what made Metal Gear 2, Sons of Liberty, great, because of the dialogue and the message. At the end of the day, I would say that the game is great. Very good game. Very good game. But it's not a 10, it's not a 9. It's far from, let's say it's 7 something. What did I say earlier? 7 something, right? That's what it is. It's a feels like a rushed, unpolished game. It's not, graphics are just a little better. Animations are a lot better. But at the end of the day, everything is pretty much the same. What do they do? What do they do all these years? And I waited all these years to get that. I think that's what upsets the majority of gamers, is that we waited this long for that? No. I'm not interested in Naughty Game, The Last of Us coming anytime soon. And if they do something, they better have it within 1 year to 2 years. Use the same engine. Do it. Just concentrate on the story. And who knows? Ellie's still alive. And who knows how this dude may flip it. Who knows? Maybe even in 3, Joel is actually alive. But you know what? That's not even, because Ellie actually buried him, right? Ellie actually buried him. They actually showed that, as I'm starting to think, right? He was actually buried. So he ain't coming back. I think they totally killed the franchise unless they could come back strong. If they could come back strong and make it meaningful to the players and build up again to make a part 4 later, but not 7 years, not 7 years, not 5. Whenever they got the green light, it's probably within 7 to 5 years where they got the green light. Either way, you don't come like that. It's like you don't do that. You just don't. You gotta have new features. You gotta have and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Great game. The Last of Us 1. That's what it is. The Last of Us 1 with a horrible story. That's what it is. But I enjoyed it. I liked it. I felt the pain of Ellie. I felt the pain of Abby. Retaliation isn't a must. And that's the problem, is that it's a simplistic message. Very simplistic message. And they could have went a lot harder on this because a lot of people were waiting for it. And that's my review on The Last of Us 2. And, we just got the Avengers. We just got 2K21. We still on Call of Duty. We about to get the new Call of Duty Cold War. We just it's gaming. I'll do this for the rest of my life. Make sure you guys go check out geology.live. That's the website. Everything there with my Twitter, YouTube. We gotta bump up the YouTube, things like that. So we just getting better with time, and I am confident that a lot of people is going to start enjoying these type of reviews, just straight talk. None of these fancy things, just straight talk, because it's a lot of people don't have straight talk no more. They want to go through certain things, and they're supported by somebody else, and they want to sit there and say that this game was great when it wasn't. Like even with Death Stranding, some people gave it a 10, some people gave it a 6. I would say that Death Stranding is really an 8. If you could keep up with the pace and keep up with the story. If you're not a story-driven person, then the game's not for you. There's not too much gameplay in it, but it's more of a artistic way of showing what games can be. And they took a chance on it, and that's what they did with Death Stranding. And with The Last of Us 2, I don't think you should have took that chance. I don't think they should have took that chance after The Last of Us 1 was great. You totally went away from it, and you killed off all the characters after one game. I don't get how that works. So, I understand what he tried to do, but it wasn't successfully implemented and executed. It wasn't. But all that programming, and I don't even think they did programming on this game because everything's the same as one. Very minimal programming, whatever. But story, they were there in the very beginning, and then it just took downhill on the climax. Climax happened very, very early in the game. And then they introduced this other character, and I like Abby. Abby, from the back and forth with her and Ellie, you could see that there's still love, there's still understanding, there's still respect between them. But at the end of the day, the game isn't a great game like it should have been. Anyway, this is Geology Gaming. Go ahead and hit that like. This is going to be posted up on YouTube and Instagram, and everybody follow. You know, and we're gonna be streaming Avengers 2K12 once again, and there's another game that I was thinking. Oh, and Call of Duty, of course. So, you know, yeah, that's a review.